Checkaroonie, I am back. Checker. Thank you for emailing me, YouTube. Thank you for reminding me that I am streaming. I don't need it. I don't need it at all. Ugh. Sometimes you just see something on Facebook and you're like, why? Damn it. Sorry, folks. Just getting ready to share the live feed. So maybe somebody will watch. I'm not going to share it around too many places, just my own personal page. Because I don't really want to flood all the groups with a bunch of shit. Let there be light. Pow. God damn, that's bright. So much brighter than I was expecting, and I'm even used to it. Ugh. All right, we are back with Podcastrophe Reviews. I'm your host, Dick, and basically, if you weren't watching the first part of this, you're getting a review of an album that I really enjoy. It's less of a review and more of a recommendation and why I think you should listen to it. Yeah, it's nothing in depth. It's nothing crazy. It's just some extra content that I'm putting out just because I can, you know. So hopefully you enjoy it. This is it's gonna be like a 4 or 5 part series that's hopefully gonna keep going as I get new music and when I get new music that I really enjoy and want people to hear. So that being said, this next one is going to be As I Lay Dying's Shaped by Fire, recently released. I think back in October. We're now early part of November, obviously. You know that because you're watching this. I really hate this whole talking to myself thing. This talking to myself thing sucks. Tyler's much better at it. Tyler is much better at monologuing. I am not. I have to have a conversation, and even then, I'm not really a fan of. I'm not much of a talker in general, so talking to myself just really doesn't work. Rambling. All right, so we got 2 people watching. It's probably Miranda and Skylar. Welcome to the practice. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start recording, and then yeah. Okay. Hello and welcome to part 3 of our Podcastrophe Reviews series. This is a series where I am recording my thoughts and my recommendations on an album. Like I am giving a completely biased review of something that I really enjoy and recommend others listen to. You know, you're not going to get a lot of criticism from me. I really enjoy these things, and I think you should too, and this is why. So, this is just extra content that you can find exclusively right here on the Podcastrophe feed that you're hopefully listening on, you know, Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio. Or maybe you're watching me record this live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Who knows? While you're at it, I know this is exclusive to the Podcastrophe feed, but if you want a lot of great podcasts, go check out the Journey into Comics Network, where you get all sorts of content every single day of the week. There's a show every single day, and it's great. So check out the Journey into Comics Network on all of your podcasting platforms. such as the ones I just named, plus Google Play. And with that being said, it's time to introduce the album I'm reviewing today. I think this is probably gonna be my last one for the night. I'll save the fourth one that I planned on doing for another one. So far, this is my third one tonight, so I'm a little tired of doing this. I'm a little tired of talking to myself, so yeah. So with that being said, I gotta sneeze. I hope your ears enjoyed that. I'm really stalling and just talking. I really hate this whole talking to myself thing. So I'm just gonna try to make this as quick as possible, as painless as possible for you guys. But we're gonna talk about As I Lay Dying's latest CD, Shaped by Fire, and I want to begin by saying there was a lot of bullshit that went into this record, the getting this record out. This record is probably about 6 years in the making. So let's rewind. Let's go back to 2013. We could even go back further than that. Way back when, in like 2009, I saw As I Lay Dying. They opened up for Lamb of God on their Wrath tour, and I was not a fan. I was not a fan of As I Lay Dying. So they probably would have been touring on their An Ocean Between Us record, but I was not a fan of that style of metal at the time. So yeah. So again, fast forward and go to 2013. I find an album. Actually, yeah, it was 2013. So yeah, early 2013, I find an album called Awakened, and I really like the album artwork. I honestly can't remember what got me into the album. I can't remember why I decided to listen to it. I can't remember any of it. Like I can't remember if it was just shown to me or what have you. I don't know. So for some reason, I listened to Awakened, and I absolutely loved it. The album was incredible. It was everything I wanted to hear. You know, like I even got the album art tattooed on my inner right arm. You know, and it was my first tattoo with Erica McKinney. Then it was Erica Bales at New Breed, and I got the tattoo for a special reason because up until that album, As I Lay Dying had been known as a Christian metalcore band. Or at least a metalcore band that had Christian influences on their lyrics. And I grew up Christian. I grew up believing in God and Jesus and heaven and hell and all of that jazz. And by this point, like, up until this point, like, I wasn't like a super devout Christian. I mean, you know me. I say fuck a lot. I say a lot of things that are not very Christian-like. And I always have. Like, that's never been a... I've never wavered on that. That's always been who I am, honestly. But I held this belief that, okay, I don't need to go to church. I don't need to, like, pray all the time. I don't need to pray at all, honestly. I held this belief that as long as I believed in God and Jesus, and, you know, I was, at my core, a good person. Like, as long, I didn't do shitty things. I was a good person. Yeah, I cussed like a sailor. I masturbated. I had premarital sex. All that stupid shit. But honestly, I believe that as long as I believed in God and Jesus, and I was a good person, I would go to heaven when I passed. And then, like, over time, you know, I don't know what it was. Like, maybe it was just things that kept happening in my life. Maybe it was just being around more people that didn't believe. Maybe, I don't know what it was, but my faith in Christianity kind of just wavered. I don't know what caused it. I I honestly don't know. But then I heard this album, Awakened, and it really, I saw some blog post by Tim Lambesis explaining some of the lyrics, and it turns out he's got a master's in Christian theology. So he's really studied the shit, and it turns out the more he studied it, the less he believed in it. And so like Awakened, or at least some of the songs on Awakened, are kind of like his testimony to losing his faith. Like these are the things that he's going through as he's losing his faith, and that's a huge deal. Like especially for someone who took it as seriously as he did, it's a huge deal to lose this part of you. That's your faith is part of who you are in that situation. And like he described it in one of his songs, a greater foundation. It's a process like losing my closest friend. Like I don't know if his closest friend is Christianity or God or what in that situation, but like it's intense. It's an intense feeling, and I I I gravitated towards that. I understood that. I felt that. So that was a big deal to me. Not to mention like the production value on that album was just out of this world. It was so good. Like his vocals were so fucking awesome. Like all of his screams and all that. Like I could understand what he was saying. He wasn't just roaring. He was enunciating words in his screams, and it was great. And the fucking bass tone was out of this world. Um, and on top of that, Josh Gilbert's fucking singing was really good as well. Um, so shortly after that, I see that As I Lay Dying is going to be touring with Killswitch Engage and Memphis May Fire. I'm like, oh fuck yeah! Finally, I get to see Killswitch Engage again. This would have been my second time seeing them, and I just got into As I Lay Dying. So, and they're on top of that, this album is fairly recent, so they're going to be touring on this new Awakened album. And Memphis May Fire was good. I liked them. I wasn't super into them, but I liked them. So I was fucking excited. I was totally gonna go to this show. Well, the powers that be had other plans because not long after that tour was announced, all of a sudden it's in the news that Tim Lambesis, singer of As I Lay Dying, has been arrested. Oh, what has he been arrested for? Like, why is he being arrested? Well, let me tell you why. Because shortly after it came out, he was arrested for, basically, he was paying a cop, an undercover cop, $1,000 to put a hit on his estranged wife. And more details came out, and it was like basically he was going through like a really ugly divorce with his wife. Ugly in terms of she was not allowing him to see their adopted children. They didn't have any kids together. They adopted some children from Africa, and he cared for them a lot. And in his story, he said she was giving me less and less time with them, and eventually she was cutting all time at all with them, and it was really messing with him. On top of that, he got really big into working out, which eventually led him into heavy steroid use. So I guess when he was coming down from the steroid use, it was really affecting his mental state and decision making. It was either when he was coming down from it or coming off of them, or while he was on them. And so supposedly that messed with his mental state and decision making, and he basically just reached this point where somebody approached him and was like, "Hey man, I know how to solve your problems, man. Just talk to this person. I'll set up a meeting with this person and pay him $1,000, and he'll take care of it, or something along those lines." So they set up the meeting, and ended up being a big sting operation, and they nailed him. They arrested him on the spot, for solicitation of murder. Later came out in an interview while he was on house arrest before his incarceration. This guy, like he had Tim had thought that the $1,000 was for like just information, just go scope the place out, figure out what you need to do, and we'll go from there. And it wasn't like a set in stone, like, all right, I'm putting a hit on my wife. Like, he thought it was just to gather information. It's such a weird fucking story. So, all in all, he got sentenced 6 years in jail. And then he only served, I think, 2.5 to 3 years of it, because I think part of his time on house arrest counted towards it. Plus, there was he got off on good behavior as well, so that reduced the sentence. And he spent I think he spent about a year and a half just out after he got out of jail, just not talking to anybody. He was rebuilding the inner workings of his life, and he didn't even really attempt to talk to the band, from what I understand. He kind of let them be, which the rest of the band, interesting enough, kept going. They went on since Tim, the only two people that own the As I Lay Dying name are Tim, their singer, who I've been talking about, and their drummer Jordan. And they decided to continue on as a different band called Woven War, where they got a new vocalist, and it sounded very, very similar to the Awakened album. Like the bass tone was there, a lot of the writing was similar. You could tell it was As I Lay Dying, except it just didn't have Tim. In fact, I don't know who the new vocalist was, but bass player Josh Gilbert did a lot of vocals on the Woven War album, and the album had almost zero screaming. So, but it was a pretty kick-ass album. I really enjoyed the Woven War debut. However, the Woven War, the follow-up to that album, I heard a single, and I did not care for it whatsoever. So I never bothered with that album, if it even came out, which I'm pretty sure it did. I'm pretty sure that album came out. I don't know. So move forward. Tim finally reaches out, and a few members, they bite, and they eventually all meet together, and they all decide, Tim seems to be sincere in what he's saying, so let's give this a shot. Let's get back together. So they got back together. They wrote a song called My Own Grave and released it, along with like a 45-minute video of like every single member of the band individually, basically like telling their feelings on the whole situation, or at least the best they could. And it was an interesting video, because Nick Hippa, their guitarist, was just like, his eyes were just like nothing but bags. There was bags, like just giant bags under his eyes, because you could tell he was so emotionally miserable from like all of this. And I think that video was doing that video and telling the fans and just talking in general about it was just like a huge weight off their shoulders, because things really kicked off after that. They did their first show in 6 years. They did all kinds of stuff, and eventually they started, which, by the way, My Own Grave ended up on the new album, and it is still, to this day, even after it being on the album, it's still one of the best songs on that album, and one of my favorite songs they've ever done. But yeah, so they finally wrote this record, and they released it, and it's a great fucking record. It's super awesome comeback. Like, holy shit. I was really worried it would either be different. Maybe Tim lost his ability to scream as well, or it just wouldn't connect to me the way Awaken did. But I'm gonna go ahead and go down the track listing. Let me find it real quick. Shaped by Fire. So starts off with Burn to Emerge, which is an intro track. It's a little under a minute long. It's just setting the scene. It's setting the scene. You can hear it as part of the the Blinded music video, which Blinded is the next song. Shaped by Fire, the title track, comes after that. Then Undertow, Torn Between, Gatekeeper, The Wreckage, My Own Grave, Take What's Left, Redefined, Only After We've Fallen, and The Toll It Takes. Let's see. This album clocks in at... it doesn't say. I can look it up on my phone, though. Again, folks, I'm not prepared for any of this. I just do it. 44 minutes at 12 songs, 44 minutes. So, again, I really enjoyed this album. This album kicks your ass from start to finish. Even the softer songs have quite the heaviness to them. Blinded, great opening track. If it's setting aside the intro track, Shaped by Fire, it's a great title track. Although it didn't hit me nearly as hard as Blinded or My Own Grave. The whole concept behind Shaped by Fire is sometimes you gotta. It's much like their song A Greater Foundation. Sometimes you gotta tear it all down to build it back up, and sometimes there are incendiary things that happen to us that really shape and mold who we become and who we are and who we become. And I think that's what this the concept of this album is about, is the event of Tim fucking up his entire life, which had a ripple effect and fucked up their entire life because they no longer had As I Lay Dying. That was their life, their living, and they no longer had that, and they had to figure it out. He probably fucked up the life of the ripple effect that happened to his parents. You know, like they now have this weight of, oh shit, their son fucked up. It's so hard to talk so consistently and rapidly, but the ripple effect that for his ex-wife and their adopted children that he still hasn't seen, that he still can't see to this day. You know, there's a restraining order or restriction on him. There's no contact order. Probably still stands to this day, and that's really unfortunate because it sounds like he did this all for his kids. I mean, yeah, it's fucked up. It's fucked up that he did it. That he thought that was an okay solution. But all in all, he did it for his kids. He was tired of not being able to see his kids. Or at least that's what he says. Or that's what he said. That interview was 6 years ago. Maybe 5 years ago. It was some point. I think it was like a year after he got it was a year after he got arrested. That interview came out. But yeah, like every member of that band went through trials, and not just him. It was every member of that band. They went through these trials, and they were shaped by those trials and the fire that came from them. And it's just, it's a perfect title for the album. Undertow. It's an all right song. It's just one of those. To me, it's a filler song. Maybe I need to look into the lyrics a little more. Then Torn Between. It's a decent song. It's just your typical As I Lay Dying. Like, I'm just gonna. It's a jam song. Gatekeeper, song number 6, is probably the only song on the album I'm not a big fan of. Again, like if you listen on the last episode of this with Killswitch Engage Atonement, I talk about how a lot of their songs on Incarnate were just like fast ripping fucking songs, and Gatekeeper's just one of those, and I don't really connect to it. It's got this crazy fucking like Slayer-esque solo in it. Like, it's insanity. That's all it is. It's like a fucking Kerry King solo. And if you're into that, cool, good for you. You're into what you're into. I'm not into that, but I'm not gonna knock it. The Wreckage, probably it's up there in terms of one of my favorite songs on the album, just because it's got a really cool, um, it's just good melodic goodness. My Own Grave, of course, easily the best song on the album, hands down. And that's the first song we heard from them in 6 years, and it it holds up to the rest of the album. Take What's Left. If you listen to an album, or if you listen to a song on the album, uh, An Ocean Between Us, there's a song called The Sound of Truth. And both songs are in, like, they go hand in hand. This is Take What's Left is almost like The Sound of Truth Part 2. And, like, literally the music is almost identical. The hook is almost identical. So, but at the same time, it's its own thing, and it's so cool, and it's another one of my favorite songs on the album. Next is Redefined, which was the second song. I think it was the first single they released off of this, not counting My Own Grave. Redefined, it's probably my third favorite on the album. Only After We've Fallen. I don't have much to say. It's just another jammer. It's just a good song to rock out to. And then next comes my second favorite. Next, as in the last song on the album, it's my second favorite song on the album. It's called The Toll It Takes, and in this, it's Tim really opening up about his sentence, and he's not talking about the one he served in jail. It's the sentence he even says, like, there's a sentence that they gave me, and one that still stands, or something like that. I'll have to look up the lyrics, but it's something that he still struggles with today because he can't see his kids, and I think that's what he's talking about. It's either that or the fact that he can't express to his ex-wife how sorry he is for the pain he caused. He can't express that to his ex-wife or his kids, and you can feel it in the song. You can feel the pain in his lyrics. It's the lyrics are, I know the toll it takes, but I can't let you go. The past I can't erase is all that you'll ever know. Like, they'll never get to hear his side of things and hear how he feels, because I mean, and some could argue he doesn't deserve that forgiveness. He doesn't deserve to give his side of the story, because what he did was so fucking wrong. And I agree, it was wrong. But I've argued for Tim for a very long time after he got out. Like, people shit all over the fact that he served his time and he got out. It's like, we as a society expect prison to be a rehabilitation of a criminal, and the idea is someone goes to jail as punishment for a crime they did, and that punishment and that sentence is supposed to be a period in which it's a time you serve to rehabilitate yourself and be released back into society, hopefully, again, rehabilitated. You are repentant of your crime, and yeah, it's supposed to be that way. That's the way I view it, at least. And we as a society, we typically don't follow that. We expect people to be punished. We expect people to serve the time for their crime, yet when they get out, they still serve a sentence for the rest of their lives because they are viewed in such a negative way. And it's like, how can you view them still negatively? I mean, I guess it's a natural thing to feel that way, but it's just tough. It's tough for me to explain how I feel about it, because I really suck at words. I suck at explaining things. I wish Tyler was here to help me, but he's not. But yeah, it's like he's still serving this sentence that wasn't part of his sentence, or I guess it is part of his sentence, but it's not part of his physical sentence. This is his own prison, to quote Creed. He created his own prison that he's still in because he can't be part of his family's life, or at least not his kid's life. He's since remarried, and good for him. Good for anybody that sees him and still wants to be with him. That's crazy. Like, good for him. But again, Shaped by Fire by As I Lay Dying. This album is such a killer album. It is a great comeback. I want to say like one thing about this album, and is that it's a good collection of As I Lay Dying. Like, take An Ocean Between Us, As I Lay Dying, and modernize it. Take that 2007 album, bring it to 2019, and you'll have Shaped by Fire. And then sprinkle a little bit of Awakened. Like, there was a lot of tone from that album sprinkled in here. A lot of tricks and stuff that they brought from that album. Production value, definitely very similar. I cannot recommend this album anymore because it's easily one of my favorite albums of this year. So check out Shaped by Fire by As I Lay Dying, and keep listening to this series. Hopefully I can record some more sometime soon to get more albums out. I really want to do Blink-182's latest self-titled, which is also known as 9. I want to do my good friends in Arcos, their album The Black, and maybe I'll do Thy Art Is Murder, Human Target. I really dug that album as well. So be on the lookout for those. Hopefully they'll be dropping every Friday consecutively for the next however many weeks, or as long as I do them. So with that being said, please check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and listen to us on all the podcasting platforms. Listen to the Journey into Comics Network, and please, thank you for listening. Please make every day a big dick day. Bye, guys. All right, there you have it. I am done recording for the night. I really got to get going. That one went a lot longer than I expected, but it's time. So thank you for watching if you have watched, and please tune in whenever we're live, because it's always a good time here. So